The elevator doors opened at exactly 8:53, and Zuri Adiz stepped out holding 2 cups of coffee and a folder already threatening to slide from under her arm. She was 20 years old. First week at Seoul and Park Capital, one of Seoul's most prestigious investment firms. Her internship had taken 18 months of applications, 3 rounds of interviews, and 1 very long phone call with her mother in Lagos, who had cried the entire time. The 42nd floor was already humming. Analysts at desks, phones ringing, the controlled chaos that expensive suits tried to disguise as calm. Zuri was moving fast, trying to deliver both coffees before the morning briefing started, when the office doors ahead swung open without warning. The man who walked through them was tall, dark suit, sharp jaw, eyes that looked at nothing in the room with any particular interest. Zuri had no time to stop. The coffee on the left tilted. Then it went. Dark liquid spread across a white shirt cuff and an expensive sleeve, thoroughly and without apology. The entire floor went quiet. Zuri looked up slowly. The man looked down at his sleeve. Then he looked at her, and he did not look away. His name, she would learn later, was Seo Han, 34, Chief Strategy Officer of Seoul and Park Capital. A man the analysts spoke about in careful sentences whenever someone important was listening. Right now, he was standing very still, looking at the spreading stain on his left cuff, and the entire 42nd floor was doing what offices do when something unpredictable happens near someone powerful, going completely silent. Zuri's heart was beating in her ears. She had spent 1 week in this building. She didn't know his name yet. She only knew that the way people had straightened in their chairs when he walked through those doors meant something significant about who he was. She opened her mouth. "I'm so sorry. I'll cover the dry cleaning. I'm so sorry." The apology came out in a rush, 3 sentences in one breath. He looked at her, not with anger, not with the cold dismissal she had braced for. He looked at her the way someone looks at a thing that doesn't quite fit the category they had prepared. Then, very quietly, "Are you burned?" Zuri blinked. "I what?" "The coffee," he said. "Did it burn you?" The office was still perfectly, absurdly quiet. She wasn't burned. She told him so. He nodded once, adjusted his sleeve so the wet fabric wasn't against his skin, and walked past her toward his office without another word. The doors closed behind him. The floor came back to life. Keyboards, phone calls, the cautious murmur of 30 people pretending they hadn't witnessed that. A woman at the nearest desk caught Zuri's eye and gave a look that said something between "You're lucky" and "Don't make a habit of that." Zuri stood in the center of the floor holding 1 remaining cup of coffee, trying to get her heartbeat to do something reasonable. His name, she found out from the intern orientation list, was Seo Han. The name appeared beside the title Chief Strategy Officer and a photograph that did not capture the particular quality of his stillness in person. She read the entry twice. Then she went back to her desk and did her work, because she was here to learn and to prove something, and not to think about the way a man she had just covered in coffee had immediately asked if she was the one who got hurt. It was a small thing. She told herself firmly it was a very small thing. She saw him 3 more times that week without speaking. Once in the elevator, where he was looking at his phone and she was looking at the floor numbers, and neither acknowledged the other's existence, which felt both professional and slightly unbearable. Once in the glass-walled conference room on 42, where she delivered printed reports to an analyst and Han was mid-sentence at the far end of the room, and he paused for 1 fraction of a second when she walked in before continuing. And once, on a Thursday evening, in the small kitchen on the 41st floor, where she was making tea at 7 p.m. because most of the staff had gone home, and she was still working through financial models her supervisor had assigned. He came in for water. He filled his glass. He looked at the documents she had spread across the small table. "Intern," he said. "Yes." "Zuri Adiz. First year." He looked at the documents again. She could see him reading the headers, assessing without touching. "The margin analysis on page 4 is using last quarter's baseline," he said. "It should be the current fiscal year." He left before she could respond. She looked at page 4. He was right. She fixed the margin analysis. It took 40 minutes and restructuring 2 formulas she had believed were correct. When she finished, the numbers told a cleaner, more honest story, and she sat with the mix of embarrassment and gratitude that comes from being corrected by someone who knew what they were looking at. She didn't thank him the next day. She had no opportunity. He moved through the office like weather, present, affecting everything, not exactly approachable. But the week after, when her supervisor reviewed the model, he set it down and said, "This is clean work, Adiz. The fiscal year baseline is exactly right. Most interns don't catch that." She smiled, said thank you, said nothing else. What she was learning about CO Han, pieced from overheard comments and the careful deference of senior analysts. He was not cold exactly, though cold was the word everyone used. He was precise. He believed in accuracy over comfort. He had joined the firm at 28 and restructured the entire Asia-Pacific portfolio within 18 months. He did not attend company social events. He did, apparently, correct the financial models of interns at 7 in the evening when he could easily have said nothing. Zuri thought about that more than she intended to. The project arrived on a Tuesday. A 40-page brief dropped onto her supervisor's desk by one of Hayen's junior analysts. The brief outlined a new impact investment initiative, a fund targeting healthcare infrastructure across sub-Saharan Africa. It required research on regulatory environments, NGO partnerships, and projected returns across a 5-year window. Her supervisor read the cover page and looked up at the 3 interns before him. "This is Hayen's priority project," he said. "He wants a supporting research team. I'm assigning Adiz to the Africa Regional Analysis. He'll review directly." The other 2 interns looked at her. She held her expression steady. She spent 3 days inside the research before her first formal review. She read everything on healthcare investment structures in Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, and South Africa. She called 2 contacts her father had given her, a Lagos-based economist and a public health researcher at the University of Nairobi. She built the framework herself. When she walked into the conference room on review morning, Hayen was already at the table. He looked at her summary. He looked at her contacts list. Then at her. "You have a source at Nairobi University," he said. "My father's colleague," she said. Silence. "Use them," he said. She used them. The research expanded into a 70-page analysis with primary source interviews, regulatory mapping across 6 countries, and a return model her Nairobi contact helped stress test over 3 video calls. Hayen reviewed each section as she completed it. He sent comments through his assistant. Precise, spare notes in printed margins. Never praise. Never criticism that wasn't specific. Just, the data on page 12 conflicts with the Q3 who report, and this projection assumes stable currency, which is incorrect, and the Kenya section is strongest. Build from this framework. She didn't see him in person for 2 weeks. She worked through it. Then one Friday evening he appeared in the doorway of the research annex. She was on the phone with her Lagos contact, switching between English and Yoruba, laughing at something the economist had said. She saw him and held up one finger, one moment, and finished the call naturally. She wasn't sure why she hadn't apologized immediately. She had just done what felt right. He said, when she hung up, "The Lagos analysis. The informal sector data. Where did that come from?" "My uncle runs a medical supply business there," she said. "Primary source." Something shifted in his expression. Very small but real. "Send me the raw data," he said. He reviewed the raw data over the weekend. Monday morning, there was a note on her desk, printed, not an email, which was apparently how he communicated things he considered important. It said, "The informal sector data changes the return projections meaningfully. I'd like to discuss methodology. Tuesday, 6 p.m., my office." She showed it to no one. She spent Monday and most of Tuesday preparing. His office was on the 43rd floor, quieter up there, higher ceilings, a wall of glass overlooking the Han River that turned the room gold in late afternoon. He was at his desk when she arrived, jacket off, sleeves rolled to the elbow, looking at 2 screens. He gestured to the chair across from him. They talked for an hour and 20 minutes. He asked questions she hadn't anticipated, which made her think, which moved the conversation into territory she found genuinely interesting. He challenged 2 of her assumptions. She pushed back on one of his. He went quiet, then said, "Explain your reasoning." She did. He nodded slowly. At the end he said, "The methodology is sound. I'll be citing this section in the final proposal." She took the elevator back down. She stood in it alone and let herself smile for exactly 4 floors. The project presented in November. Hayen delivered the proposal to the board himself, but the research section carried her name as primary author. Her supervisor told her this the morning before, and she read the email twice to be certain. She called her mother that evening. Her mother cried. After the presentation, the office moved into year-end reporting and Zuri moved with it. New assignments, longer hours, the exhaustion of a person proving they belong in a room where no one looks quite like them. She saw Han less. The project was done. His attention had moved, as she understood it always did, to the next priority. She told herself this was fine. She was here to learn, not to need acknowledgement from one specific person. But she noticed his absence from the floor. She noticed when the kitchen on 41 was empty at 7 in the evening. She noticed these things the way you notice a sound that has stopped, only by the quality of the quiet it leaves. One night, she stayed until 9 working through a compliance report. When she finally packed her bag, she found a vending machine coffee sitting on the corner of her desk. No note. She looked around the empty floor. She sat back down and drank it slowly. December brought the company's year-end dinner, a formal event at a Gangnam hotel that even interns attended, which her supervisor explained was unusual and meant the firm had had a good year. She wore a deep green dress her roommate lent her and spent the subway ride telling herself she was going for professional visibility and not because Seo Han would also be there. He was there. He was across the room for most of the evening, which was a relief and also not a relief at all. She talked to senior analysts. She laughed at the right moments. She ate the food and drank 1 glass of wine and tried not to watch someone across a room. He found her near the end of the evening at the window overlooking the hotel garden, where December lights were strung through bare trees. The board approved the fund, he said. Full capital commitment. Launch in March. Congratulations, she said. That's really good. Your Lagos data was the deciding factor. She looked at him. He was looking at the garden. You're not good at accepting credit, he said. You're not good at giving compliments, she said. A pause. Fair, he said. They stood at the window for another 20 minutes. She wasn't sure when it stopped feeling like a professional conversation. Maybe when he asked where she was from and actually listened. Maybe when she asked what had drawn him to investment strategy and he paused a long time before answering. My father ran a small textile business in Daegu, he said. He made good decisions, but had no access to capital. A different structure, and he could have built something significant. I spent a long time thinking about what it means to have the right idea without the right room. She thought about her father in Lagos, the contacts he had given her, the doors those contacts had opened. I know that particular thing, she said. He looked at her then, directly, the way he had the morning of the coffee, not assessing, something else. I know you do, he said. They were interrupted by her supervisor, who came to say good night with cheerful timing. She turned to respond. When she turned back, Han was already moving toward the exit. She watched him go. She decided whatever she was feeling was probably just professional admiration. She was not entirely convincing. January was cold in Seoul in a way that felt personal. Zuri's internship was extended through spring, a formal offer from HR that her supervisor delivered with obvious pride. She should have been thinking only about the extension and what it meant. Instead, she noticed that Han had not been on the 42nd floor in 2 weeks. His assistant, Ms. Choi, had mentioned in passing that he was in off-site meetings through January. Zuri did her work. She was good at it and getting better every week. On the 3rd Thursday of January, she was in the archive room on 41 pulling historical fund reports when the door opened and Han walked in. He stopped. She stopped. I didn't know anyone used this room, he said. I didn't either, she said. I needed the 2019 reports. He moved to the shelving unit across the room. He pulled a folder without looking at her. Your internship was extended, he said. Not a question. Yes. Good, he said. He left. She stood there holding the 2019 reports, staring at the space where he had been, for a moment that was longer than strictly necessary and shorter than she would have liked. February arrived, and with it the pre-launch preparation for the Africa Fund. Zuri was formally assigned to the launch team, a small group of analysts and one nervous junior associate who sweated through every meeting. Her role was research support and stakeholder communication, which meant she was in rooms where decisions were being made. It also meant she was in rooms where Han was. He treated her as he treated everyone on the team, exacting standards, no unnecessary warmth. He corrected errors immediately. He expected preparation. But she noticed things she was almost certain no one else did. He always made sure she had briefing documents before the meeting started, not at the start of it. When a senior analyst spoke over her once during a review session, Han said, "Let her finish." in a voice that did not invite debate. He remembered the name of her Lagos contact and used it correctly in meetings. He never assigned her the quiet administrative tasks that tended to drift toward whoever looked like they were just passing through. She noticed all of it. She filed it carefully alongside everything else she was learning about this man, and tried to keep her attention on the work, which was genuinely important and genuinely hers. It was February 17th when something finally cracked open. She was at her desk late, working through stakeholder drafts, when her phone rang. Her mother, voice thick before she said a single word. Her father had been in a minor accident. He was fine, truly fine, the doctors confirmed, but the word fine was doing enormous work against enormous fear. Her mother needed her present, just to talk. Zuri stepped into the stairwell, sat on the cold stairs, and talked to her mother for 40 minutes. She kept her voice steady until her mother's steadied, and after they hung up she sat with eyes closed doing the breathing that holds difficult things in place. When she opened her eyes, Hayan was standing at the top of the stairwell. He had the door open, clearly heading down. He had stopped when he saw her. "Sorry," she said, standing quickly. "I'll move." "Don't," he said. He let the door close behind him. He came and sat on the step just above her, not beside her, giving her the space she hadn't asked for but needed. "Family," he said. "My father. He's okay. It's just, yes." "Okay," he said, and stayed. He didn't ask her to talk about it. He didn't offer advice. He sat in the stairwell with her for 15 minutes while the building hummed around them. At some point he said, "My mother lives in Taegu. I call her every Sunday. For years when I was building this career, I let the calls go to voicemail." He said it to the stairs, not to her. "Do you still?" she asked. "No," he said. "I realized the cost when it almost became permanent." She looked at him. He was looking straight ahead, forearms on his knees, and in the stairwell light, he looked like a different version of himself. Not the floor, not the title. Just a person. "Thank you for staying," she said. "You stayed in the hospital corridor, so to speak," he said, which made no literal sense and somehow made complete sense. It seemed appropriate to return the favor. She laughed, small and surprised, and echoing in the concrete. He looked at her when she laughed. She caught the expression before he had fully composed it back to his usual. There was warmth in it, brief, real, and quickly contained, like a light coming on in a window before the curtain is drawn. She carried it with her down the stairs. March came, and the fun launch with it. Investors, press, and the high-tension energy of months of work finally arriving at a point. Zuri wore her own dress. Navy blue, her grandmother's earrings. She had prepared her stakeholder remarks twice over and knew the research material cold. The morning of the launch, Hayan passed her in the corridor. "You're presenting the Africa market section," he said. "I know," she said. "You built it," he said. "Present it like you built it." She walked into the conference room and did exactly that. The room listened. Real questions came from serious people, and she answered with the fluency of primary research and genuine care about a subject. When she cited the Lagos and formal sector data, 2 senior investors made notes. After the formal session, a woman in a white blazer found her near the water station. She was on the board of a major Nairobi hospital foundation, which Zuri would learn only later. "Your analysis on the healthcare access gap in secondary cities," the woman said. "That was the most grounded regional data I've seen from a Seoul-based firm." Zuri thanked her. Across the room, Hayan was watching. He looked away when she caught him. After the launch dinner, Seoul was still lit up and Zuri found herself on the firm's rooftop terrace with a small celebratory glass and a view of the city that felt like it was trying to say something. He found her there. She had stopped being surprised that he appeared in quieter edges of things. "Good evening," he said. "Good launch," she said. He stood beside her at the railing. The city below was a river of light. "Where do you want to be in 5 years?" he asked. Directly. He was that kind of person. She thought honestly. Running impact investment at a fund that measures actual community outcomes, not just financial returns. "I want the data to be accountable to the people it describes." Quiet for a moment. "That's harder than the job you're being trained for," he said. "I know. I didn't come here for the easy version." A longer silence. "When your internship ends in May," he said, "I want to discuss a junior analyst position. Full-time. On my team." She turned to look at him. He was looking at the city. "I would want that very much," she said. "Good," he said. "So would I." He said it to the city lights. But she heard the difference in it. April. 3 weeks before her internship ended. She was in the archive room when Han appeared in the doorway a second time. He had 2 cups of coffee. He held one out. She looked at it, then at him. I believe I owe you, he said. She took the cup. This is from the good machine, she said. 43rd floor, he confirmed. She smiled. He looked at the smile the way he had looked at her laugh in the stairwell. Careful, not quite fast enough to conceal what it did to his expression. They drank coffee among 20 years of fund reports, and she asked about Taegu, and he told her about growing up in a city that felt small until you understood that every large thing starts as something small. He asked about Lagos, and she told him about the heat, the noise, her mother's voice calling her name from 3 rooms away, the feeling of being held by a city that expected great things because it had seen what its people could become. You carry it with you, he said. Your home. It's in how you work. She looked at him. So do you, she said. He looked surprised. Like no one had ever pointed that out before. It was the last Thursday of April. She was leaving the building at 8 in the evening when he caught up with her in the lobby. Not his assistant. Not a note. Him. At ease, he said. She turned. He looked, for the first time since she had known him, unprepared. There is something I want to say, he began, which was so unlike his usual precision that she held herself very still. I am aware the professional boundaries here are specific. They are, she said. The analyst position is real, he said. It isn't contingent on anything other than the work. I want to be clear. I know, she said. And separately from that, he continued, there is something else. Which is, he stopped. Started again. You walked into this office, and you were not what anyone expected. You are not what I expected. Every time I have worked beside you, I have found the experience. Another pause. Significant. Significant, she repeated. I am better with numbers than with this, he said. She smiled. Han, I spilled coffee on you on my second day. Yes, he said. And you were the first person who ever asked me something that required me to actually think. She looked at him for a long time. She said yes. Not only to the job, though she said yes to that too, formally on the first Monday of May. She said yes to the thing underneath the job, the thing built in stairwells and archive rooms and quiet kitchens since a cup of coffee had tilted and a man had asked if she was the one who got burned. They were careful, professional. They told the people who needed to know, followed the processes that existed for exactly this, and handled it with the precision that characterized everything Han did and everything Zuri had learned. The coffee incident became a story the office told, the cold chief strategy officer, the intern who hadn't flinched, the question that surprised everyone. Are you burned? They told it with affection. Offices are not always kind about the things they notice. On a Saturday in June, they walked along the Han River before the city was fully awake. He bought her coffee from a cart and handed it over. She took it carefully. They both recognized the small private joke. Don't spill it, he said. You're never letting that go, she said. He smiled. Full and unhurried. It changed his whole face. She decided she would spend a long time learning everything that made him do that.
If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, comment and subscribe for more stories.